We should be live now. When you guys come in, let me know when you guys are here. Give me a thumbs up or leave a comment. Today we have a guest. He's an attorney. His name is Greg Kirakosian. And from my understanding, um, this guy has sued the LAPD and won before. And let me ask you this really quick, bro. I guess I'll start with the first question. How many times have you sued the LAPD?
I've sued a lot more than just the LAPD. I've gone from Bakersfield but mostly LA, from the sheriffs and the LAPD. I mean, dozens of times altogether, honestly.
Wow,
And there were
okay.
firms I was at before that I was working at before I started our own firm. And, we sued them constantly. Civil rights violations was like our, go-to kind of thing. We just all have a passion for it.
Cool, man. So your friend who reached out to me, he mentioned the fact that you had been watching my channel or you had seen
Yeah.
some of my work, and could you tell me a little bit about like what intrigued you about the channel, about the work that we do?
Yeah, so just in my line of work, I'm searching stuff online. I'm always Googling stuff, seeing stuff. And you know how this algorithm works. You search for something on Google and then it's popping something up on Facebook or, YouTube. And one of your videos came up. And I think I had seen it a bunch before because I see a lot of these videos. And somebody had called me about a month ago who was, recording these sort of things. He would be out there, he would be recording. I forgot what his channel was called, and we talked for like 30 minutes. And I was like, here's what you can do better. Here's how you guys should be kind of doing this and doing that. And he was really grateful. And I told him, if you ever need any more help, whatever. And then I was talking to my friend about it, who actually contacted you. And I think that's how this kind of whole thing started. I love what you guys do. I think it's really important. But I think there's little tweaks you guys can do to do your job even maybe a little better,
Right.
protect yourselves a little better, make a record of the violations a little better. Nothing crazy. You guys are really smart. The video I just watched, I forgot who it was related to you. Your brother or I
My
forgot who that was.
son?
Your son,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's my oldest son.
Your oldest son, he's even citing Supreme Court cases, you know what I
Right.
mean, in his explanation. And it's a really popular one. Houston versus Hill was the last one he was kind
Right.
of citing to, and it's right on the money.
Right. Man, let me just say first and foremost, I appreciate you and also your friend who reached out to me and connected us because in reality, when I first started, I seen that there was just a handful of channels like mine out there, and I kind of did my own recording. And I wanted to go out there and get and help other channels grow as well. But as many other channels started growing, I felt like nobody really cared to pay attention to what was going on, only because like it seems like we're a bunch of misfits. Like where we swear a lot, we do all these things, and it seems like the ACLU wanted nothing to do with us. Um, Even though some of these cases were like slam dunk cases, mainstream media, local news, they, and still to this very day, they talk bad about First Amendment auditors or whatnot. Um, but I gotta say that I kind of knew a long time ago that through all the bullshit, through all the mistakes that we make, through after, at the end of the day, people are gonna see what's going on, and they're gonna adapt to this, and they're gonna feel it, and they're gonna want to follow it and support it because it's an empowerment. Once you know you have these natural rights, and I talked to a friend, Jason Bassler, the original creator of the Free Thought Project website and the original Police the Police. And one of the things I was saying was, yeah, man, human rights. And he was, I really don't like to say human rights. I like to mention it more of like natural rights, because
Sure.
as a human, as a human, people think that you're like you're a part of some coalition or something. Human rights, you just naturally have those. I mean, those natural rights, you just naturally have them, right? And so, I try to put my head together with other folks that are doing this and try to, comprehend their ways of looking at things. Let them know how I feel, how I see things, and I think the perfect auditor is kind of being created right now, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
I personally like to keep the original premise of what a First Amendment audit was, which was to go out and record public officials on the course of their duties, But many folks that use the term First Amendment audit, they go out and do private businesses and just do all kinds of crazy nonsense stuff, right? And I think it makes it look bad, when they try to tie everybody in together as a group, right? Because everybody has, I like to say it like this, man, we all have our own tree to hug, right? We're all activists, we're all tree huggers, so go find your own tree, homie, if you don't like my activism, right? But at the same time, we all seem to be grouped, and a lot of people do some crazy shit, a lot of people do this and that. And that's why I think that this movement hasn't grown like it should have, or it should. It's growing, but that's how I feel like we're in that. And I gotta tell you that I kind of knew along the way that we were going to get folks like you, who are educated, who know about the law, who can see past look through and past our mistakes and say, you know what, this is something that I'm willing to support. And I just want to say thank you, bro. I know that was a long thank you, but thank you.
Oh, of course. I mean, what you guys are doing is fantastic. I mean, someone's got to do it. Someone needs to, in a sense, police the police. I mean, we're seeing, it's been what, 4 decades of misconduct, and it's not getting better. If anything, they're getting better at it. One of the things I'm seeing now, I don't know if you're we get a lot of phone calls in our office, and the one we're getting a lot now, it's less of, the officer violated my rights this way or that way, arrested me, did this. Instead, we're getting a lot of, the officer put me on a 5150 hold. Like just out of nowhere, he couldn't arrest me, he couldn't do this, so what did he do? He put me on a 5150 hold. We're getting calls like that constantly. And a weird part of me is thinking, the public's getting smarter, lawyers are standing up, the public's standing up against the police, and they've got to educate themselves to kind of keep up with what people like you are doing and the public's doing. So I think that's their new strategy that I kind of really want to start diving into, where they roll up on somebody, they say whatever they're going to say, and the person stands up for their rights in some way, and they can't just arrest them for that. So what do? 5150 hold. We're going to say you're crazy. We're going to say you're nuts. We're going to say you were a risk to yourself or somebody around you. And then that's a great way to, can I drop F-bombs in here?
Hell yeah, bro. Hell yes.
It's such an easy way to just totally fuck with somebody's life. They're gone for 3 days in a hospital, yelling and screaming, "I'm not crazy," which only makes, nurses and staff kind of think you're even more crazy. And I'm seeing that more than anything now. Just a really, it seems to be like their new thing. Just call everybody crazy. We're not arresting you. We're just calling the ambulance to check on you, make sure you're all right. And guess what? The ambulance always kind of takes you away because an officer's saying he saw you act, strange, say weird things. And I really want to start diving into that. I really want to start researching.
You have no idea how important what you just said is, because right now, that is the most important topic on my channel right now. Go back and watch the last video on my main channel as soon as you're done with this. And that video talks about exactly what you're saying. And I think there's other points to touch on that. And here it is.
The 5150 hold?
Yes. And here it is. Check this out. So the cops are out there. And let's say a person, just kind of like what you're saying, a person doesn't want to talk to cops, right? He's like, I don't have to talk to you, man. I ain't broke a law. Can you state a law that I broke? And the cop's like, no, you're going to answer the question. The person don't want to answer questions, right? So they're going to call in a medical, somebody to come and check out the person, right? We were passing by a mental health place in West Sacramento a couple days ago. We went to go back up another channel, Bay Area Transparency. And we were passing by, some guy was yelling, "Fuck you, call the cops." And so we're like, oh shit, cops are going to come. Let's get off real quick and start recording. So we started recording. Check this out, okay? Because of this incident, it led me down a path to find out more, and it scares me. Because one of the things that we're advocating for is, okay, well, let's start sending, instead of sending police officers to these mental health calls, whatever, let's start sending these mental health professionals to these calls, right? Now check this out. So we get there, and there's a mental health professional talking to the guy who is yelling. as soon as we get up there, he starts the medical health professional. His name is Richard Villarreal, and he says, "Why don't you guys just leave? Go." And my son, one of my sons who has a channel with us, he says, "Nobody tells me what to do, sir." And the guy kind of gets mad, right? He says, "You guys are losers. You guys are dorks. You guys probably don't have any girlfriends." And the guy who works there is talking to us like that, talking to the public this way. So I go and I try to get his name. He doesn't want to give it to me. Supervisor comes out. I try to get the name of the supervisor and the other guy. They all ignore me. They're all acting hella weird. And in the comment section, they say, "Bro, that was like the Twilight Zone, the way they were acting," right? And so they call the cops on me. The cops came in. They had a bad attitude as well, but they had to leave. They had no choice. I was correct. It was a lobby. When I went in there, they tried to kick me out. They tried to lie. They tried to get me arrested. And what I'm seeing is, after I did that, after I came home, I did some research and I found out who they were. And these folks are the ones who are being sent with police as medical professionals on these calls. And a lot of the comments that you're going to see on my channel is, if this is how they treat the public, how are they going to treat the clients? You know, and can they pick and choose who they want? Can him and the cop give each other a gesture? They're 5150, let's take them, right? Kind of like what you're saying. And so one of the things that we as activists, one of the things we're advocating for, when we get it, are we going to be happy? Does it make sense? I mean, I can smell lawsuits in the future as well, but it's so hard because the government protects the government. And so all these installations and these agencies, it seems like they're going to protect each other along the way. So all bad roads are paved with good intentions. We're going to get what we want, but are we going to get what we want?
Well, here's how they work together in a really smart way. So let me just give you kind of a background example. Let's say you've done nothing wrong, right? You're totally innocent, but your neighbor or whoever, I don't know, somebody around you has a grudge out on you. So they call the police and say, "Hey, this guy's got a gun. He's crazy. He's doing this. He's doing that." Well, the cops take that information and they rely on it. And so when they come up to you, they're even though you've done nothing wrong in reality, what they know is you're potentially armed and dangerous. Right. So they treat you that way and they arrest you because you're acting a little whatever, and that's it. They arrest you. They've got somebody else's word that you've got a gun and you've done something wrong. That's enough probable cause to arrest you, right? Even though they haven't seen it, they'll rely on somebody else's statement.
Right.
But they can't do that every day because they don't often get these phone calls. They just see what you're doing and they want to fuck with you. No one's told them you've done anything wrong. So you get arrested. The officer's done nothing wrong. Even though you're innocent, he had probable cause to arrest you. Somebody said you were waving a gun around or whatever. Now what they're doing is they're doing that with each other. So you have an officer who tells another government body, another governmental person, "I think this guy's crazy." So that person shows up and says, "I've got news, I've got word from somebody else that he's acting crazy. So that's enough for me to kind of take this guy in." And then the officer gets to say, "Hey, I didn't take him in. All I said was what I saw and I left it up to that person." So now they've got this kind of, they can point the finger at each other and kind of rely on each other, and that's it, you're gone. Sometimes we get calls and these people are in whatever, mental facility, and they're let go like an hour later. Whatever doctor's in there, he's not in on it. He doesn't know what's going on. He's just coming up to this, this person to evaluate, and immediately lets them go. Like, "You're not crazy. This makes no sense." But sometimes, hey, some people are kind of weird. Some people are angry, and the next thing you know, they're in some mental facility for like, a full 2.5, 3 days before they're finally released. It's nutty. But I'm glad you're looking into it. I haven't really heard anyone else talk about it. I've been noticing the last 6 months to a year, a crazy amount of calls just on that one. Like, they put me on a 5150 hold, and I'm like, why? You seem normal. You've got a house, you've got a job, you're living somewhere. Like, what's the basis? I don't know. I said get off my property, and that was it. They put me on 5150 hold. Like,
exactly. And what? Some of these things that I see them in patterns. Like a lot of times we look at things and we don't know it's happening. We see this like, okay, I'm catching something, but then you see it again. It's like, wait a minute. We've seen it in Fresno where this guy was climbing this thing, and the cops were there. They called the medical staff to come in, and boom, the cops took him away, right, with the medical staff. I'm not gonna lie, the guy was drunk. And he didn't want to answer no questions and shit like that, so they took him in. And we see it often, over and over again, when people don't want to answer questions, then they call in the medical staff. So does that bypass the laws by using medical staff? Because if I'm not mistaken, a government employee can't be the complainant on a person unless the person actually has committed a crime against them, or is like actually like harassing them. It crosses that line of harassment or something, right? Is a government agent not supposed to be the complainant? Because that's what a lot of lawsuits rely on, right?
In what sense the government's not supposed
Okay.
a police officer to be a witness to
Okay,
a
a
crime?
good example would be, for instance, we go into a public building and they're saying that we don't want them in here, but it's a public area, and the cops like, well, we can't arrest him, unless he's actually committed a crime. So, in other words, um, there's nobody. Let's say it's a post office audit, right? We go into the post office, and the only complainants are the people in the post office, but there's not one person that's in the post office, like a customer, that's a complainant. So, unless I've committed a crime, the agent, I mean the person working there, can't be the complainant, or the cop can't walk in and says, you know what, man, and I'm like, you know what, cop, fuck you, and my freedom of my speech. But he can't be the complainant of disturbing the peace unless there's somebody here that says, hey, my daughter here, man, you're cussing in front of my daughter, bro. Like, I want to press charges, officer, right? He's the complainant, but the officer can't be the complainant. The person working can't be the complainant. So what I'm asking now is, in legal terms, using this medical, what they're doing now, does it bypass that law or whatever?
I mean,
Or is that something to look into?
that law you're talking about is kind of like, it's not like the officers are like, oh, I can't be the complainant, so how am I going to arrest this guy? You know what I mean? What, like, your son was just arrested, and I'm sure you guys are all the time when you're on a scene recording, they're claiming not that you're harassing or they're not the complainant. They're saying you're impeding in their investigation. You're,
Right.
you're what is it, obstructing their investigation, I forgot what the penal code is.
48.
Yeah, 148. Exactly. So they're the complainant. They're the ones saying you're impeding
Oh, that's true.
in
Yeah.
my investigation. You know what I mean? So it's not like they can never be a complainant in a crime. They can be a witness to a crime all the time. They can even be a victim of it. There's 148. You can obstruct their shit. In the post office scenario, I don't think an officer or any government person can be like, you're violating what? You know what I mean? They can't just be like, we want you gone. That's for sure.
Right.
That's just a violation of, a million constitutional rights. You can't just be like, we want that guy out of here. Why?
What?
I don't know. We don't like him.
But that almost seems like exactly what's been happening with these cops. Is like, okay, I want him gone. I want him away. I want him gone. Right.
That's the problem. They're trying to find ways to get you out of there that's legal. They can't just say, we want you gone. They got to find a right way to do it. So what they've been doing for years is, you're obstructing my investigation. It's like, and then you guys started wising up. No, we're not. We're like fucking 10 feet away. You know what I mean? We know the case law. We know how this works. You can't do that. I have a right to say to somebody else, hey, your constitutional right is to remain silent. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. There's
Right.
nothing illegal. But you're too close. We told you to get over there behind that cone. It's like, why? So they're starting to wise up that that's not going to work too much anymore. And what I'm seeing more and more now is this 5150 hold. You're just crazy. Why are you out here? You must be nuts if you're out here, recording stuff or standing up for your rights or telling me to get. Only a crazy person would want to enforce their civil rights or human rights or natural rights. That's what I'm seeing a lot more now. But yeah, they're finding ways around it, and we got to find ways to protect her, which is why I'm starting to look into this 5150 hold stuff now.
I'm glad you're looking into that, bro, because it's become a pattern, and I'm seeing it. not just on my camera, because I've seen it on my personal camera, but in the many videos that are being sent to me. And those of you guys that are watching right now, I apologize that I have not been reading the chat. We're going to open up questions here in a little bit. This is my first time really getting to know Greg, so we're just kind of putting our heads together, talking, getting to know each other. We're doing this with you guys in the chat, so I really do appreciate you guys being here. Be patient. Thank you for being patient with us. We will be opening up the questions here shortly, and I'll be putting up your guys' comments up on the top. But yeah, Greg, man, I just, like I say, man, when I started doing this, I did it because I seen Bakersfield police on the news was the deadliest county for police justified killings, and I said, shit, man, my kids are growing up here. I don't want my kids to pull out a phone one day and get shot. So I went out, started recording police, and I realized that it just needs to be done. Since I've been doing this, I have seen cops, sergeants, different officers, whatever. Some really do appreciate what I do. There's a retired fish and game warden that saw one of my videos. I was actually highlighting a fish and game warden who did a really good job, and he appreciated that video, and he also appreciated the other ones where I call out cops for doing dumb shit. He wrote a book. It's called Rise of the Oath Breakers. So there are people reaching out to us now. Like I said, I knew sooner or later we were going to have folks like you, important people, coming in and hopefully helping the community. And I got to tell you, bro, there has been, I would say at least one attorney in particular. I'm not going to say his name, but he came in and I think he made a mess out of a lot of us. He would dox us. He would call police stations, and he just kind of made everybody against each other. He ripped everybody off. And that is one thing that many of us, or many of the folks in the community, have been afraid of.
Wow. I got to hear more about this. What's that about?
I'll tell you more about it. Now, we'll behind the scenes, I'll give you his name and who he is as well. And I'm not the only one in this community that talks about this or who knows about this. There are many, because he's burned a lot. He's taken all their money and he never helped none of us. So, having said that, a lot of us have been reluctant to just open up, and just trust anyone. And we don't even trust each other half the time, right, guys? We're all bumping heads and arguing with each other sometimes, but for the most part, man, there's a lot of support between the folks. We have a lot of channels going through a lot of shit. Now, actually, I'll ask you another question. Who was asked by a really good friend of mine who has a really solid channel, and he's out of Arizona. His channel's called Direct D. He asked me, do you think he can help me? And I says, I don't know him like that, bro. Like, I don't really know him yet. I'll ask him, though. He says, well, I mean, I'm facing some time. I'm doing, I could possibly use some help. Can you find folks, or can you help folks, or maybe find somebody with and do you have connections with lawyers who are criminal lawyers? Because you are a civil attorney, right?
Yeah, definitely civil rights stuff. We work with a lot of criminal attorneys because of the crossover. We get people who are arrested. We got to get them off first before we can really, do anything on the civil side. But yeah.
Right. So I have a friend out of Arizona, and I'm going to send you his channel link, and I'll send you some of his videos. He's been arrested a tremendous amount of times. Mesa, Arizona, and just to give you a little bit of insight of how Mesa, Arizona is, there was a channel who called for us. There he is, Greg D. Welcome in, brother. So we went out to Arizona, and we went out to go record and back up another guy out there. And this guy, we did some videos out there. 6 months after a video was out, they put out a warrant for me and two of my sons for trespassing on a property. So we went to court. Me and my youngest son, we lost on the second court appearance. And my other son beat the case. But Mesa, Arizona, they're going around trespassing people whenever they want, off pretty much any private businesses even. And the judges over there seem to be in cahoots, and they're all congratulating each other on their newly marriages and name changes and all that shit, and it's just a shit show in Mesa, Arizona. And Direct D found himself recording a lot of the cops over there getting arrested a lot, and all of that because the cops are just power tripping, and I believe he's one of the activists right now in this community that needs possibly the most help. You know,
Why was
obviously, what was that?
why was he arrested? What happened?
Mostly always for trespassing and interfering and all that shit, bro. And I think one of them is actually a felony. And we all know that he didn't do anything on that one. They tackled him and they said that he may have hit the cop, or I don't know what the hell they're saying, but they're charging him with a felony for that. So we definitely have Direct D, who needs a lot of support, a lot of help. Recently, my son was arrested, as you've seen in his video. Now, from his video, what do you think? Do you think he did anything wrong?
Your son's video?
Yeah.
No. No, the problem with, and I think your son actually handled this pretty well. He was very respectful. There was a couple times he was kind of like "fuck you" and that kind of stuff, which the reality is I've never talked to any of you guys personally. This is the first time I'm actually talking to one of you. I did talk to somebody on the phone a while ago who did this, who had some questions, but I didn't really get into it. But we're having this conversation. Really, why do you guys do what you do? Like, what's the real reason you do it? Is it because you hate cops? Is it because you're actually trying to protect people who are, getting messed with by cops? Is it because you're hoping you get your ass beat and you can file the lawsuit? Because sometimes I watch all these videos and I'm like, why is he acting that way? Like, why? You know what I mean? Why get up in the cop's face? If you're really just trying to record for the sake of recording to protect everybody, why get up in the, why ask everyone, what's your badge number? Fuck you, fuck you. And I never kind of get that. Your son didn't do that, though. He was pretty respectful and cool. But I didn't think he did anything wrong. He was really far away. He saw a woman. She was already detained. She was handcuffed. All he said was, don't talk to the cops, or, I forgot what he said, wait for your lawyer or something like that. Which is literally, there's nothing obstructive about it. If you read the actual penal code, there's no way you can say that that's obstructing anything at all. But wow, those cops didn't like it. They immediately were like, "Get back!"
Yeah.
And it's like, why? And your son was right. He's like, why? I'm not doing anything. I mean, I have a right to be here. No, we want you over there. We want you over here. Don't say anything. And he was done with it. He waited until he put the lady in the car, and he's like, I'm going to arrest you now.
Right.
And it's kind of silly. And we watch a lot of these videos, that retaliation, where you're just kind of calling out an officer, and they just flip out. They don't like it. It's a power trip thing. That's the only thing I can come up with. They're so used to being in control, having everybody scared of them, having that kind of power in any scenario. And the minute somebody questions it, they just lose their marbles. But yeah, I don't think he did anything wrong. Now, the question is, does he have a case? Is it worth suing the officer for all that? And that depends on a lot of stuff. What happened to him afterwards?
So he went to court and they still haven't filed the charges. Charges have not been filed yet. And what was weird about it is we never found his arrest online. And usually everyone that's arrested, we find him online quick. And he was never found online as being booked or being in jail or having a court date. He just had the paper that they gave him. He went to court and they didn't charge him. His friend, a newer channel, started recording recently. He went out on his own and they arrested him the exact same way. But they did book him, and you can find his name. But for some reason my son's wasn't.
They didn't book your son or charge him at all?
Yeah, he was booked. He went to jail. He fucking let him out the next day, but he was never on the registry, like on the computer or nothing.
Yeah, so he was booked and charged. They just didn't, whoever the filing DA is looked at the report and was probably like, I don't know. Because that guy had a
body cam.
Body cam. So I'm sure someone looked at it and was like, you can't arrest that guy who's 15 feet away who just said, wait for your lawyer. I forgot what he said exactly, but it was something along those lines. Like, you have the right to remain silent, which is something the cops should have been telling her anyway. You have a right to remain silent.
Shit.
You know what I mean?
Right,
They're
yeah.
supposed to say that. but somebody else said it, and that was enough to arrest him. So I'm sure that's why they dropped the charges immediately. I mean, what was it for?
Well, I
So
don't know if his charges are dropped because last time he was arrested in Shafter, there was a different courthouse. They did the exact same thing. He would go to court, but took a long time for them to actually file. And that seems like that's kind of what they do when they actually want to get you to have a warrant. They're like, oh yeah, we haven't filed it in there or whatever, and then later on when you forget, they just put it in there, and then you don't go to court.
interesting. So the strategy would be, hey, he came in, he appeared. We're going to wait a little bit and then suddenly file charges, put a warrant out him. Now, anytime he's out on the street, his license plate, him, whatever, his house, we can just go pick him up. That's a great way,
Possibly,
great way
right?
to fuck with people.
Yeah.
Great
Um,
way to.
I've dealt with a lot of Bakersfield police fucking with me in the past. But so let me. There's people. Let's start opening up the questions, guys. I know you guys have hundreds of questions. You guys are being patient in the chat. Um, so we have Greg here, and he's been suing LAPD, and I gotta tell you, man, one of the cases that I seen, the cops definitely beat the shit out of that dude, right? Um, so they beat the dog shit out of the guy, and you filed, or the family filed a lawsuit against the police, right? And you guys won that case.
Beating the shit out of the guy doesn't narrow it down. Which case are you talking about? We've got so many cases where they beat,
Well, they
guy.
had they had this guy up like against this box, and then they were just like fucking kneeing him and shit, and I was like, Jesus Christ! And somebody sent me, I think it was like a video clip, like a minute video clip, and
Got him up against a box, beating him up.
I don't know if it was on the sidewalk or what, but they were beating the shit out the dude, and it was kind of dark, and I don't know if it was the L.A. Sheriff's Department or the LAPD, but
I'm honestly drawing a blank. You do so many of these cases, they all kind of turn into the same thing. Honestly,
right,
we've got a case going to trial now where they tased the guy. He was down on the ground, and he's got his hands up in the air now. That he's and 8 officers beat the living daylights out of the guy. You know what I mean? Um, excessive force is a huge problem, but they're tough cases. But yeah, I'm trying to remember which case you're talking about.
well, I know we definitely have some. So let me ask you this, bro. People are reaching out to me all the time. They're always asking me if I know lawyers. And it's been hard for me to direct anybody in any kind of direction just because, like I said, we've been burned by someone. And so I believe a lot of us are finding ourselves in a difficult position. A lot of us are facing charges. And like I said, a solid friend of mine, activist, is facing charges, and a lot of them. I think there was a question that wanted me to ask you is so basically you're a bar member, right? And they're asking me to ask you if you're basically a part of the same group that they are, the British Registry or whatever you guys are saying in there. How does that work, bro? I mean, a lot of folks believe that lawyers are not really here to help the people, right? But I mean, give us your take on how you would, I guess, address that, bro. If it makes any sense what I'm talking about.
Oh no, I know exactly what you're saying. I mean, right now we're talking about police officers, right? You were mentioning earlier, a lot of them are awesome. A lot of them are great. A lot of them are here to actually, help or follow the law or do this or do that. The reality is, I'd say, 5-10% are batshit crazy. You know what I mean? They're just really, doing whatever they want. Maybe another 10, 15, 20% are just kind of dumb and they'll make mistakes and they don't know what they're doing. But, the large majority are great. I actually have nothing against the police in general. I've got family members who are police officers, and I tell them almost every case I'm taking, hey, what do you think about this? And if they tell me, like, that officer, fuck that guy, that guy should not have done that, I take the case. but most of them are great, and lawyers are kind of the same. Lawyer, there's no industry that has, a perfect record of everyone's great. Some lawyers really give a shit. Some lawyers really want to help. The problem with these civil rights cases, though, is they are extremely difficult. You see in Bakersfield too, in LA, from LA to Bakersfield, there's 1,000 billboards of lawyers, right? Every one of those billboards are car accident lawyers, usually, right? Because those cases are pretty easy. Oh, you got rear-ended. There's an insurance company. That insurance company doesn't want to waste money. They want to pay, and there's going to be some settlement pretty quickly. There's not a lot to fight about. Lawyers who do civil rights cases, though, I can't take every case. Like your son's case, was that a civil rights violation? Absolutely. Would I win? I don't know. The law is so much harder when it comes to police. They have immunities. Then you've got to worry about the jury, and the jury's gonna, sorry, a lot of people in Bakersfield all the way here love police officers, and they're not going to want to rule in your favor. And then what are we going to get? You know what I mean? It's hard to kind of decide. So we get calls from people who are like, my rights were violated. And I'm like, I know they were. There's no question about it. But I don't have the financial resources to take the case. You know what I mean? Do I want to fight for justice? Yeah, sure. Do I want to help everybody out? Yeah, I wish I could. Do I wish this shit would stop? 100%. But can I help every single person? No, it's really hard. And then there's some lawyers like you're talking about who are, I guess, scamming people and taking their money and not doing anything. That's a whole nother story. You know what I mean? That's really shitty. I don't know. I don't even know what to say about that. I don't know what the full circumstances are there. But
are we living in the age of information, right? Or we could possibly come to a time where we won't need attorneys, where the people will get smart enough to know the law. And I'll say this: there was an activist, and he's from Sacramento. He's gangster as fuck, but he was really smart as well. And some of the things he used to say is, bro, we need to stop talking like we do in the streets. We need to start talking like we do in the courtrooms. He says that's the language that'll take care of us. But I understand. I'm seeing more about law now, and it's basically an interpretation of it. Who's in there and who can interpret it better, right? Who can interpret the law better, but at the same time, at the end of the day, the judge is ultimately, or the jury's ultimately going to make a decision on who interpreted the law better. I believe that kind of what you just said, is not enough finances, and I think that sucks, and I'll tell you why as well. We have to pay for our own attorneys, but when cops fuck up, we still pay for their attorneys, right? How is that a sustainable system? How is that fair, right?
That's so true. I've never thought of that before.
And so why? What the fuck is going on here? So why are we in this system, in this way of life right now? We're smarter than that in this country. We're not acting like it, but we are. And in reality, it's kind of sad that we as YouTubers have to teach the law to the police, to ourselves, to our families, to our friends, to people who don't know the law. And a lot of times these civil rights violations, though, and there's been a lot of comments. We do get a lot of comments from a lot of folks who do stats and shit as well. And they say who read stats, and most of the money that comes from lawsuits comes from small civil rights violations, not police brutality and stuff like that. So in my understanding, there are lawsuits out there, people filing lawsuits. I mean, I guess if you have it on camera, I mean, I guess if you are able to articulate, how they violated your rights. But like kind of like, for instance, what you said, and I'm reading some of the comments as they're going up, and they're like, what you just said 5 minutes ago, people were saying that that's how lawyers are, not enough resources, and stuff like that to sue these cops, and there's a lot of bootlickers in Bakersfield especially, and a lot of parts of the world, and but how will we ever get around that? You understand what I'm saying? How will we ever get around that?
I always envision, specifically for this kind of issue with civil rights violations, if there was a nonprofit organization that did nothing but, like, your son, perfect example. Like, take those kind of cases. It's clear cut. It's a civil rights violation. The department's probably going to hear about it. They're not going to do anything. They clear their officers every single time. And then the person can't get a lawyer. So it just kind of keeps going, and it keeps going, and it keeps going. If a civil rights organization which should be the ACLU, but I don't think they even have the finances to do it, because this happens 10,000 times a day. I mean, nationally, Lord knows, just in Bakersfield, this is happening, Lord knows how many times. So imagine how many lawsuits that would be in each county every day for this sort of conduct. It's going to be 10, 20, 30 a day. You know how much money that takes? You know how much time that takes? You know how many lawyers that would take? If there was a nonprofit organization funded by the government, funded by the county, funded by anybody to say, hey, we're doing a shitty job looking after our officers. We're not doing a good job. We need an independent organization with money to really look at this stuff, investigate, and file. I think we'd be able to do it, and we'd see an immediate change. The county's going to say, holy shit, there's 50 lawsuits this month alone for all these little civil rights violations. Sure, we didn't kill anybody, we didn't break any bones, but we took somebody to jail for a night and a half, and we had no right to do that. We got to start reevaluating what we're doing here.
Bro,
I think that's the only way.
That's an amazing answer. And I don't know if you can read above me. Direct D put a thing up there that says the Bentham Project. He's the channel out of Arizona, the one I'm telling you about.
Yeah, I remember.
He doesn't trust a lot of folks, okay? And I can read some of the comments. He probably doesn't trust you much right now.
That's fine.
But what you just said, he left the emoji like he's listening to you. Because what you just said, him and I just talked about that. We've been talking about that for about a year. He told me he was going to do what you just said, and he did it. He started the Bentham Project, a nonprofit organization with two other activists, Reluctant Prophet, Pigs Under Pressure, shout out to you guys, Direct D, and a paralegal. And they're trying to do just that. So even me, I'm talking to my tax people to see how much I can donate to the Bentham Project, this type of stuff. Like, we're gonna really try to promote this and put this out there to really help activists, for instance, like what you just said, because we're kind of figuring this out as well. We're seeing these things with patterns, right, along the way. These are fucking everyday cases. You know what I mean? And a lot of times people do file lawsuits, and like my son does plan on filing a lawsuit, and several folks are reaching out, and even Direct D with the Bentham Project, they will write out the lawsuit for him and everything, and they're talking about helping and stuff like that. Maybe this is something that maybe you can help us with. Maybe we can try to find a way to help you in your whatever you got going on. I mean, maybe we can all just connect together. I would love to find a way to stay connected with you along the future. I do believe that you have a good heart. I do believe you're here for the people. And your record kind of shows that, right? But at the same time, like you kind of said it yourself, and I'm glad you said it. You're not afraid to say these types of things. It's like, fuck, man, some of these cases are like, they're everyday types of cases. Like, how do we? They could be overwhelming for somebody, just one person like you, right?
Yeah. There's a playbook if you guys are actually going to put together like a thing where you're going to help people file, at least on their own behalf, because they might not be able to get a lawyer. There's a pretty clear playbook of what's going to happen, and I'd be happy to talk to you guys on what that's going to look like, at least so you can really push a lot of these forward as much as you can, especially if you guys have video evidence of your stuff, like for your son.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's honestly an open and shut case. There's really not a lot of dispute in that case. Are they going to settle if you don't have a lawyer? I don't really know. That always kind of depends, but I think if there's a nonprofit organization like Bentham Project, is that what it's called?
Yeah, the Bentham Project.
I'm gonna look it up because
I'll
that's
send you links. I'll send you links and stuff, bro.
yeah, it's such a good idea. But they need to be in communication with the public for funding, with the actual government entities for funding.
Word.
Um, it would change the game. I can't even explain how. And I mean actually work with police departments too, because
Right.
they're training themselves. If you're following what's going
Bro,
on,
he said that as well. You were touching every fucking. You're hitting every pitch out the park, homie. Real shit. Real shit, dude.
are you following what's going on in LA County right now? The sheriff's department.
As far as
It's
like the gangs.
Yeah, it's nuts. Those guys are training other deputies right now, and they're getting more and more people into these gangs. And I'm not saying every police department is like that, but we this organization should also work with the police departments in revamping how they're training their officers, because they're clearly not training them on some of these issues: how to fire a gun, how to put on the cuffs. I get all
Right.
that stuff, they're doing that, but how about just a simple, what do you do when
Right.
somebody's recording you? It takes 5 minutes, you know what I mean, to kind of go through that training and how to deal with somebody who's yelling out in the street like, hey, leave that guy alone, whatever it might be.
See,
You know,
let's redirect these comment. See, I'm not Looney Tunes, folks. He said the exact same thing you just said, and he said this. The Bentham Project will even offer free training to police.
yeah, it would be awesome. It would change the whole landscape of how officers interact with people. Because
That's
the only thing more entertaining to me than these videos of officers clearly violating people's rights is when you see another officer who's like standing up for someone's rights. You know, when like
Right,
some of these
right,
videos, another sergeant or somebody will come up and be like, "He has a right to do that. You can't."
right,
I love those videos. Are so much better. 'Cause
right.
you're like, yes, yes,
Yes, yeah, bro. We hardly ever see that. Very
yeah,
rarely do we see that. There's a video on my channel. We went viral. I went to the jury room and I was recording, and the one of the bailiffs or the deputies held my arm for a long time. Held it for a long time. Even held it until the guy I was with agreed to get off the property as well. Not just, I was like, all right, I'll get off, motherfucker. But he was like, well, you agreed to get off. But during that, I was telling the other officer, hey man, can't you fucking de-escalate and take over the situation here, man? I mean, look, like I'm not fighting you guys and shit. But he's like, he's first responder. We get a lot of that, bro. He's first responder type shit, right? Like,
what does that even mean? I don't even know what that means.
he's first responder. We're not gonna overstep his whatever he's got going on, and we even see that with supervisors, bro.
No, they have an obligation actually, that if they see some sort of civil rights violation, that they're obligated to stop it, or
That's called what? Duty to intervene, something like that.
yeah, 100%. They can't be like, oh, he's the first, so we're just gonna, you know, they might give him a little bit more leeway because he might have more information than they do who just got there. But if they're seeing like a knee on the neck for a long time, or somebody just, excessive force, they can't be like, oh, he's the first, so he gets dibs to do whatever he wants. They're supposed to kind of stop and interfere. In a lot of these videos, you'll see a sergeant asking, what's going on? Why are you doing this? And he'll be like, oh, because he's, trespassing. And you'll see the sergeant be like, no, he's not. This is public property. You can't do that. You can't say that to him, or you can't. And that's what they're supposed to be doing. So I've never even heard an officer like, oh, he's the first, so he gets to do whatever he wants. That's bullshit.
Yeah, well, it's on my channel.
I gotta watch these videos, man.
Yeah, I'll send you that link too. What else, man? There's just so much to talk about, dude. And I gotta say that, obviously, like I told you, this community, even myself, have been reluctant to trust lawyers nowadays. But I gotta tell you, one of the things about me, and you'll see, is I like to give everybody a chance. And some folks will come out here, and I help as many possible channels as I possibly can grow. And some folks turn it into a shit show, and they'll get their ass handed to them. Like there's this guy Chili DeCastro, and he turned his whole channel into his whole shit show about him. And now you got like 50 channels making fun of this guy. They're even getting monetized to make videos to make fun of this guy. It's fucking hilarious. And I mean, this community is kind of open to everybody, I guess. But I'm guessing that we as auditors, we audit the police, we audit the government, we fucking audit ourselves as well. we'll start calling each other out on dumb shit that we're all doing. You know what I
Good.
mean? And so let me ask you this. Um, as far as like what you see in some of the things that we do, what is it that you believe that this community can do better? What can I mean? Obviously, you mentioned the Bentham project was something to Direct D. You were mentioning that before I even told you that's even in existence already, right? And it's small, it's new, it's small, but this is something that we're going to push. Back when a lot of the stuff started happening, even before the George Floyd incident, we were making videos about. Some of us were making videos about qualified immunity. Nobody knew what the fuck it was. I didn't even know what it was.
It's complicated.
Right.
It really is complicated. Even for me, who's done it and filed motions and oppositions about it, it's still like every time I'm faced with it, I almost have to start from square one because it's fucking bullshit. First of all, so it's hard to really, just deal with that. But yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
And so we as a community, we started recognizing this, and we started learning about it, researching it, and it's fucking Rights Crispy. I put his comment up there. He even made a
All right.
video about it.
Heck v. Humphrey is. I see the comment. What can we do about Heck v. Humphrey? Not much. Heck v. Humphrey makes sense. It does. All it says is if you're going to plead guilty to something, let's say it's resisting arrest, right? If you plead guilty to resisting arrest, one of the elements to resisting arrest is the officer was lawful in the performance of his duties. So when you plead guilty, you're admitting that the officer was lawful in the performance of his duties. It's one of the elements when you pled guilty. You can't plead guilty that you were resisting arrest and then the next day sue the officer for whatever. You know what I mean? It's a little bit beyond that because often what happens is you might plead guilty to resisting arrest because, yeah, you were kind of resisting, but then you want to sue for excessive force because, yeah, you were resisting, but did that mean you get to, get socked 55 times in the face? Not really. And some cases are still kind of wishy-washy on that. But the way around Heck v. Humphrey is, one, get a good criminal defense lawyer who understands that you might want to file a civil case right after. Don't plead guilty because that's what they do. The DA will be like, let's give this guy a sweet deal, no jail time, no nothing. You know what I mean? And who's not going to take that deal, right? We'll make this go away in a year. It'll be off your record. It's all clean and gone. So sure, you take that deal. You don't want to deal with the criminal case anymore or attorney's fees for a criminal defense lawyer. So you plead guilty, but then you lose your right to sue for anything the officer might have done. So what can we do about Heck v. Humphrey? It's not a lot. You just have to know what you're doing and when you're doing it and talk to a lawyer as you're going through that criminal process.
As you said, like you saw our videos, a lot of us state case law. Arizona, there's that new law regarding this 8 feet thing. What do you think about that?
Honestly, when I first heard about it, first I thought it was kind of funny because the law isn't specific to police interactions. It doesn't say only when you're recording the police. If I remember correctly, it's like a really vague, like you got to be 8 feet away. But the reason they did it was specifically for police. They just didn't like publicly put that in the actual law. It says nothing about officers in that law, if I remember correctly. But what do I think about it? Honestly, I kind of like it. And the reason why I like it is now there's no more bullshit. Hey, you got to go 20 feet over there if you want to record me or do what like they did with your son. He was more than 8 feet away, right? When he was recording, he was probably 15 feet away and they wanted him to go even farther. Well, now we have a bright line rule, 8 feet. So if you are 8 feet away, like your son was, there's no way the officer can be like, no, you got to get back even more. Because right now it's a kind of vague, oh, as long as you're interfering. Well, what's interfering? 8 feet, 20 feet, 100 feet? Now it's clear. So I don't mind it. 8 feet makes sense. It's a reasonable kind of, you should be 8 feet away if you're going to be recording the police officers.
Is
Wow,
that
Harry.
is that law unconstitutional because they stipulated specifically for photographers?
Has anyone tried to challenge that law constitutionally? Has
The-
anything come up yet?
They'll have to get arrested first and challenge it,
Yeah. I don't know
right?
how that would. Yeah, usually yes. So what? Somebody must get arrested and then say, "Hey, this law is unconstitutional," and then it's going to take a year before it gets up to the Supreme Court, unless the Supreme Court wants to take it immediately, which they might on a case like this.
Or unless the people petition, or what?
I'm not sure how that works, taking stuff up to the Supreme Court. Sometimes I think you can just immediately say, hey, this law is unconstitutional, or do you need an actual person who's, they're trying to enforce that law against? I forget. Um, but it would be interesting to see what happens with this one. I have a feeling, without reading the law in front of me or any cases specifically about it, because I'd have to do a ton of research to know what a Supreme Court's going to do. I have a feeling it's going to be upheld with this Supreme Court. Definitely, I have a feeling it's going to be upheld. It's going to be found to be a constitutional law.
That it'll stay? Do you think it'll stick?
I think so. I mean, with
Um,
the Supreme Court, well, I mean, what law is going to stick? You know what I mean? Or is going to get turned down if it's helpful to the police? I mean, this is a really conservative Republican court right now, pro police. So I don't think they're going to turn down anything that helps the police.
uh, I'm not political on my channel, um, but does this make sense that the left wants more government and the right wants to enforce all the government laws? You
I
know what
was
I'm
watching.
saying?
Yeah, no, 100%. I was watching Bill Burr. I'm sure you've heard of him, the
Yeah,
comedian.
it's fucking
He has
hilarious.
an stand up, or I don't know how new it is, but I watched it just recently on Netflix, and he brought something up. It made me laugh so much. He was talking about COVID. You know what I mean? He says, like, I don't get political either, but I have to kind of point this out. We have Americans right now who are, we love America. It's all about America. How dare you stand up against our government and our government people and whatever. And then COVID shots come out or whatever. The government kind of rolls out these boosters and whatever vaccines. And that same group of people says, I'm not taking that shit. I don't trust the government. And obviously I'm not making it funny. He makes it funny. But there's too many inconsistencies and hypocrisies with our politics right now. I can't even keep up with it. From I mean, any topic you pick right now that's a hot button issue, the hypocrisy is on both sides. Honestly,
Right.
like it's almost overwhelming from both sides. So I stay away from it as far as I can. I almost don't know what to do anymore about political stuff. It's really hard. So I just focus on this one issue right now, this civil rights stuff.
What are policies that can change in the police departments that can benefit the people? I know qualified immunity, and I can go on and on about qualified immunity. A lot of folks, I think BLM missed the boat when it came to qualified immunity and talking about it. A lot of folks think that it was enacted in a different time when it wasn't. It was enacted a couple years after the Jim Crow laws were repealed in Pearson v. Ray, in a case where a preacher went and challenged the segregation laws. He was arrested and convicted. He took it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court overturned it, found him innocent. But the Supreme Court said, well, not all the laws, not every violation should be allowed to, sue every officer, because let's say the officer does his job in good faith and there's no well-established law out there that the officer had to have known. We're going to go ahead and give police departments qualified immunity throughout the nation. And why nobody talked about qualified immunity, Pearson v. Ray, during the whole thing is beyond me. Like I said, I made videos. They didn't go viral, but you know what they did? It resonated through the community, because the folks that did watch those videos, they went and commented on everybody else's channels. In qualified immunity, in qualified immunity, in qualified immunity, in qualified immunity. The very next day after George Floyd incident, I went out to go record. And there was a news anchor walking around. I was following his ass, trying to fucking catch him and talk to him. He ended up getting into it with a black dude. They ended up having an argument, and they ended up hugging it out after that. It was pretty cool to see. But then I followed him and I talked to him. I was like, bro, let's talk. I got some shit to throw on the table. You need to hear me out. End qualified immunity. He's like, what's that? And I'm like, you see, nobody knows about it. Yeah. We need to end it. He's all, tell me more. We need to talk more. And it looked good on camera. The guy never cared. I mean, I ended up talking to him, but he didn't care about it. But what I believe what that did is it was shared on Instagram, and it was shared to AOC. It was shared to Bernie Sanders. Shared to Sean King and a lot of these activists out there. And so the very next day after my video, now I would love to think that my video had a hand in this. Who knows? But the very next day, Sean King, Bernie Sanders, they started putting it on thing, let's end qualified immunity. Let's end qualified immunity. But that shit was erased immediately. The very next day after that, it was defund the police. So the talk of ending qualified immunity completely stopped through mainstream media and all that stuff and through all these other activist groups outside this community. In this community, you will still see it on every video that I post or somebody else posts. Someone will say in there, end qualified immunity. End qualified immunity. It doesn't work. Let's get rid of it. That's just one policy that I can go on and on and on and on about how it doesn't work. It doesn't benefit the people at all. Police, internal investigations, right? Police unions. Now let me ask you this, bro. SB 1421, do you pull those records?
Well, I don't know what that is, the personnel record?
Yeah, SB 1421 is this new California law that came out maybe about a year or two ago, and it allows us to view complaints and records on police officers and things that they've done. In Bakersfield, I woke up and I seen the news a few days after the new law was put into place. Or the new bill, I guess, whatever they call it, SB 1421, right? They came out in the news, the local news in Bakersfield said, yeah, we just pulled a couple random records, and what we found was crazy. There was one officer who went and arrested a spousal abuser, and later on he was talking to the wife, trying to hook up with her, and then he ends up sending her shots of his crotch. Later on, two other officers go in there, and women officers, and the woman tells the women officers, so they take it and they put a complaint, but they swept it under the rug. Right. And these things are happening over and over and over again. And I gotta say, I personally haven't done an SB 1421. I wanna learn how to pull these files and get as many records of cops as I possibly can. You know, I would think
like a kind of like a Freedom of Information Act request. Yeah. That this. I didn't know that, because usually when we file a case, we get the file on somebody, but I didn't know you can just do it whenever you want. That's awesome. I think that's
good to know, right?
I mean, what they usually say is it's a employment record. Like our complaints and whatever internal complaints we have is like a personnel employee record, and employee rights are really important, so we keep that confidential. But should that apply to government employees about how they're performing their duties? So the idea is, if Officer Gomez, whatever, has medical issues or asks for a pay raise or whatever it might be, that's a personnel employment thing that should be confidential. I don't think that anyone should really see that stuff. But internal complaints, Officer Gomez beat the shit out of somebody, tried to do whatever, has whatever complaints, I think all that stuff should be public immediately.
But even all the records, as pay raises and all that shit, isn't that already public record anyways?
Yeah, but I mean like internal, like normal everyday employment stuff, something that's really employment related. Like, I'm trying to think of an example, but it has nothing to do with how they're performing their duties. It's just, I'm trying to think of an example, but getting a pay raise would become public because they are public employees. But
Right.
maybe him asking about it or talking to his sergeant or doing whatever it might be, just normal everyday employment stuff, should stay quiet. But complaints about them and how they perform their duties, that should be made public. That's not a real like personnel file type thing. That's an actual something that the people should be, you know, want to know about and should have a right to know how Officer Gomez, whoever that is, how they're performing their duties. I don't know why that would be have to stay confidential.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of ways to find out information. For instance, like a cop the other day says I was watching a video, and a cop, and it was out of LA, and the cop was telling the dude, like, the guy's like, yeah, I'm gonna find out where you live, and the cop was like, oh yeah, is that a threat? And the guy was like, no, I'm just letting you know, I'm gonna find out where you live. The cop says, you can't find that out, and the guy says, yeah, I can. He says, do you own a house? And I was like, fuck yeah, that's easily find out where
Yeah.
people live like that. And California Transparent, it tells us their first, last names. It tells us middle initials. Tells us, certain things about an officer that, it's not hard to get information about cops.
Mhm.
Secondly, I think, these types of records, I think everybody should be taught how to do these types of things immediately when they come out. Kids are not being taught the law in school. Now, let me ask you, bro. I ask everybody. I ask cops. I ask everybody if they know the First Amendment of the Constitution. Do you know it verbatim, the First Amendment of the Constitution?
No. I mean, I'm sure I did at one point, especially during school and that kind of stuff. But
Do you know at least the five elements of it? What is stipulated? The main points of the First Amendment?
not really. I don't think I can. I don't think I can like quote anything from the First Amendment. Just sitting here right now, it's been so long since I've like looked at it and memorized that sort of stuff. I just know the principle and spirit of the First Amendment.
And like I say, man, I recognize things in patterns. Like I see things as I go along. Like I like to say that I'm not that smart, but people get mad at me when I say that shit, right? But I see things in patterns, and one of the things that I've seen is absolutely almost nobody in this country knows the First Amendment and the elements of it. The First Amendment was written to highlight our natural rights, the rights that we were born with. We were born with the right to have or worship or follow any religion or not follow any religion, right? Um, Freedom of religion or freedom from religion, freedom of press, freedom of speech, right? Uh, Basically, in my son's case, like he was telling the woman, she can has the right to remain silent in so many words. That was a freedom of speech,
Freedom of
uh,
assembly.
freedom to assemble, and freedom to petition the government. Those five elements are so important that the Second Amendment was written to protect it, right? And 99% of the cops that I speak to don't know it. And I believe that that is a huge problem in this country. The Bill of Rights, that's right, folks. I'm reading some of the comments as I'm speaking. Um, and that, I believe, becomes a huge issue because that is exactly what we're supposed to know as human beings when we're out there, when we leave our houses. We have to know these things. And I believe that's one of the reasons why we have so many issues in this country. The people don't know their rights, and the cops don't know their rights. And the cops will be the first ones to tell you, ignorance of the law is no excuse, right?
I've been saying that for years. Our public school system should talk about more realistic shit. I don't think this is ever going to happen, but legal stuff, actual real like how to run your life, financial information. You know what I mean? How to
Right.
like, whatever, spend money, what um a credit score is. None of that stuff is taught in high school, but legal things like this, basic rights, none of that stuff is taught in high school. If I had it my way and I would have started a school, eighth grade all the way to 12th grade or whatever, that high school would all, every year would be some aspect of all of that stuff, along
Oh,
with history and math. You know what I mean? That stuff's important too. But yeah, no one, you're right. No one does. Neither did I when I was younger. I didn't know. And I had parents who were in the legal profession, and I still didn't really know stuff. You just hear stuff in the movies and that's it, but that's not really educating you right. It's just up to you to want to get into it. So lawyers look into it, and people like you who are just really passionate about this stuff look into it.
Yeah, it's crazy to me because, and I like to say things I want to grab people, man, by their fucking shirt and say, listen, right? Like I tried to come up with the right terminology, the right words, the right verbiage to grab somebody's attention. I don't know how I grabbed your attention, but I did somehow, right?
I like what you guys do. I love what you guys do. I'm interested in it, just in a different arena. You guys are actually out on the street. I don't think I'm ever going to do that. I'm fighting it, where I can, which is in the courtroom and in these cases. But yeah.
Don't
you think the police should be trained on this stuff? I mean, that's
Absolutely.
the one. I get kids aren't going to be taught it, but that's the one thing. If I were to talk to police and give them any training, it's why some of these laws are what they are, what they're intended to protect. You know what I mean? And the balance between, let's say the First Amendment and 148, resisting arrest. How do those two what should you be considering? But I don't know if these officers are trained why 148 exists, why resisting arrest is a crime. They just know it kind of generally. Hey, resisting arrest, or interfering with an investigation. If I told you interfering with an investigation, fuck, anything could be interfering with an investigation if you just think of it that generally, right? Was your son interfering? Yeah, sure. He screamed something, from a distance. Did it interfere? Yeah. But if you know the real purpose of that law, you can't arrest him for that. And they're not trained on that stuff. At least I don't think so. Not that I've ever heard. Because if they were, they wouldn't be doing it,
It's funny you say that because I did a First Amendment audit at the LAPD training facility and at the LA Sheriff's training facility. Those are two of some of my best videos on the internet, man. When I show people the sheriff's facility, they're totally fucking blown away because the cops were called out there. Somebody, hold on, D. I'll put this up there and then you can answer that in a little bit. But we went out there and we showed these cops, these sheriff deputies, we were right and they were wrong. One of the things that they did to combat us was the fact that they put up no trespassing signs the very next day, but those no trespassing signs were to, and you're in LA, right? You can drive up and check this shit out yourself, bro. Go up to the LAPD training facility and go to the LA Sheriff's training facility and check out the no trespassing signs. The fucking penal code that they put up there are no trespassing signs for like a fucking house, a private property.
Where is that thing?
One of them's over there on Elysian Park behind Dodger Stadium. And the other one is I forgot where it's at, but it's the sheriff's training facility. And that's what they're doing, so we might have to go to these city council meetings, the county meetings, and might have to let them know what's up. But in both of those facilities, absolutely nothing nowhere about the First Amendment. In the alley, you want to know what's crazy is the sheriff's training facility behind Elysian Park. That shit's open to the public, bro. We walked through that whole compound, and that shit felt like we were in a video game of Grand Theft Auto. Freely to walk around. Dude, we even walked through the gun range. We were like, what the hell? Where are we? Like,
I gotta check it out. I've never even thought
it's insane, bro, right? When we got to the front, all kinds of cops were called on us, bro. It was like a riot. They've set up for like a riot, bro. They did the whole thing, fucking choppers, cars everywhere, and we all sent them packing, dismissed, Most cops called on a First Amendment audit at the LAPD training facility. But we walked that whole compound. One of the most important things about that video is we were able to look through all kinds of rooms, everywhere. Nothing about the First Amendment. Nothing about the Bill of Rights. Nothing about the Constitution. And I like to point out that the Bill of Rights doesn't give us our rights, bro. The Constitution doesn't give us our rights. We were born with these natural rights. These documents were written to limit the scope of authority that these public officials have over the people. No wonder they don't fucking know it. No wonder we don't know it. No wonder we're in the position that we're in. No wonder cops will tell you ignorance of the law is no excuse, but they're also the first ones to tell you, how are we supposed to know all the laws? There's too many laws in the books. We're not required to know all the laws. One of the things that I do best on my channel, bro, is highlight police hypocrisy. I don't know law like I should. Nobody really even does.
Yeah.
And even if they do, it's just an interpretation of it, right? Their interpretation of it. You got to convince the other guy that your interpretation is correct. But if he's protecting, and I got to tell you, a lot of times we go to these courthouses and it's always our word against theirs. So without proof, fuck. Good luck, right? Man, I can go on and on and on.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've got cases and cases on. If we didn't get this one piece of evidence, we have this case. It's probably one of the most fucked up cases I've worked on. Luckily, he didn't get injured. It was just a really clear example of officers just lying, and it was this guy. You can look it up. LA Times wrote about it and stuff. His name was Lyle Spruill, Spruill, and he was out in public, and the officers just came up on him, rolled up. I'm trying to give you the short version. And they just immediately kind of pulled him out of his car, started handcuffing him. He knew what was going on. He knew he was getting fucked with. And like an idiot, he's the first to admit it, he started to run. He was freaked out because they were fucking with him. He started to run. They caught him half a block later, and that was the end of the story. Then he gets back to the station and he's getting interviewed. Hey, why did you run? Like, what happened? What happened? And then finally someone says, yeah, but why did you open fire on the officers? And he's like, open fire on who? Like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, yeah, why did you shoot at the officers? Why did you try to kill the officers? And he's like he's losing his mind. I have the interview. He's going crazy. Like, what are you talking about? That never happened. If I had a gun and if I shot at them, I'd be dead right now. Like, what are you talking about? The officers wrote these fucking police reports that he started to run and then he stopped and then he turned and he started firing at us. I mean, they just made the whole thing up.
They got caught lying, right? I think I read this case.
Yeah. It was, 5, 6 of these deputies all said they heard the gun, they saw the gun, they saw him do it, they saw him turn. The main deputy describes the bright muzzle flash that he saw, you know what I mean? And then thank God one of the local places had video and it shows him do nothing but run for a little bit and then he gets back. That's it. He doesn't stop, he doesn't turn. You certainly don't see him, pointing a gun at anybody. He just runs away and gets caught. So, like, what the fuck? If it wasn't for that video, it would have been this one guy's word against 6, 7 deputies who all are adding to the story of what they saw. You know what I mean? To say that he tried to murder an officer. He would have went away for 20, 30 years. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, that shit happens all the time. That one was the scariest. Because how many other cases have there been where that's actually happened and we didn't happen to get video to show that the officers just made the whole thing up? It's fucking scary, right?
Yeah.
Like, super scary. And
Ruining
that's when
people's lives.
Yeah, dude. I mean, forget about the arrest you, charge you, and then drop the charges 6 months later, because that'll ruin somebody's life. Right. You know what I mean? People lose their jobs, then they can't pay rent, and this kind of domino effect happens where the trajectory of somebody's life is completely fucking changed.
Whatever happened with those 6 officers? Are they still in the force?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely.
All 6 of them?
What happened was anytime you'd have a case and the county's going to pay or the city's going to pay, it goes to like a board or the city council or whatever, and they have a meeting about it and they decide, hey, should we settle this case or should we not? Here's the recommendation. The recommendation from the lawyer is to settle. And then they agree to settle, and then what they do is they put like this corrective action plan together. Here's what we should do differently. Here's what we learned from this mistake of ours. And you would think in a case like that, the mistake would be, we need to fire these officers or not employ officers who are just going to make shit up and try to send people away for the rest of their lives. Yeah. And the corrective action plan for this one was like, I forgot what it was. It made no sense. It was like, we need to talk to people more. It was something that made like no sense. It had nothing to do with the case at all. And yeah, I forgot what your question was, but it was fucking, baffling, that case. I still get like nightmares about the fact that that can happen. And that's where these LA sheriff gangs kind of come in. Some of these people in that group were gangs. And so yeah, nothing happened to these officers. They're still on the force. They're not going to internally say, "Hey, we got to get rid of the deputy who lied under oath on a police report and just made the whole thing up." What do they say? Oh, maybe he saw something blinking in the distance and got confused. All right, I believe it, and that's it. He'll stay on the force forever.
Right. Yeah. Fucking liars, huh? Um, and can you think of a policy yourself that would ultimately change the face of policing?
Like one policy? No. I think if you get rid of qualified immunity and change some of these laws, that's going to totally change how the police interact with people. I don't think just if everything stays the same and we add one policy or one training or one something, I don't think anything's going to change. I don't want to. I'm against defund the police. I don't want to defund the police. We need the police. We got to have it. I just think we just need to revamp it kind of from the bottom up. I just don't know if that's ever going to be able to happen.
Um, Qualified immunity, internal investigations, police unions. Also, um,
Actually,
when
that might.
police
If we
unions.
if no if we internal investigations to me is the biggest crock of fucking bullshit ever. I've only had one case that I've seen in my career where I'm looking at it. I mean, it's clearly a violation, and internal investigation clears it. So, what standard are they applying? I mean, imagine internal investigations was like, everybody has a job somewhere, right? If you violate one fucking rule, you've got human resources on your ass, a boss on your ass, somebody on your ass. You might get fired any second now, right? But not for police. They have it the other. It's like the opposite for them. They can do whatever they want, and you've got somebody who's there to protect you. You've got somebody there to add to your story so that it makes sense. Then you've got human resources or internal investigations to totally clear what you did. And then so what's stopping them from, you know, what's preventing them from violating people's rights? Nothing. Nothing.
What do we replace it with?
It just needs to be corrected. If there needs to be oversight over these
A
people.
citizen review board?
I think so. Which the one case that I'm thinking of where the officers were found to have violated, there was a citizen review board that said, "Hey, this was wrong," even though IA cleared it. It was that independent review board that was like, "Hey, this was fucked up. We're not supposed to do that," and only that started, a chain reaction of things to kind of retrain the officers and that sort of stuff. We need an independent review board, which Lord knows if
I'm
that's.
becoming fearful of independent review boards and all these types of things that we're thinking of, hoping to put in place of what's already there. Why am I afraid of that? Well, what are we gonna fill it with? Bootlickers, right? We're thinking of some kind of thing to come in and, like I say, man, all bad roads are paved with good intentions. But we have here's my solution, man. Not just a citizen review board, but folks who truly understand the Constitution, folks who are citizens who maybe take like some kind of understanding of what the Constitution is, what it means. Was that person's rights fucking violated? Did that cop violate the person's rights? Forget about the person fucking cussing and swearing and criminal history and all that shit. This particular fucking incident, was his rights violated? If yes, let's hold this officer accountable.
Well, I think you can fix it. The independent review board, I don't think would be citizens who are just really into anything. Right now, we have judges, for example. They're kind of elected officials. They might be appointed, but they are people who are educated, who get trained on how to be judges, who are constantly getting trained on how they're supposed to do it. And they make decisions every day, right? These judges. I know everybody, there's some people who think judges are on the take and stuff like that. I don't believe that at all. I really don't. I've never seen a judge who's just totally made the wrong ruling. I've never seen it. But we could have judges, a group of judges who are either elected or appointed, who actually are trained and review officer interactions, officer behavior, complaints, and look at the law, look at the shit, look at whatever they need to look at, and actually come to a decision. That was wrong. You can't do that. We have judges who do that every day now. They put their case forward, hey, qualified immunity, whatever, whatever, whatever. And then somebody else, the plaintiff, who says, no, this was a violation of somebody's rights. And then a judge looks at it before any jury does and says, yeah, no, this was enough for us to say that this might have been a violation. So why not do that for the police? Why not have an actual board of attorneys who are trained on this shit to look into it and make a decision? Judges are majority former prosecutors. No, yeah, that's actually true. They are. But that doesn't mean they're bad people. It doesn't mean they're liars. It doesn't mean they're getting paid. If anything, it means they're trained. The majority of defense lawyers, criminal defense lawyers, you know what they were before? Prosecutors. Almost every good defense lawyer you're going to hire today used to be a prosecutor at some point. Used to be, you right? So judges are the same thing. Just because they used to be a prosecutor doesn't mean they hate, whatever. Or they
When cops get sued, or departments or cities, should it come from the taxpayers? Because this guy says until we can get the courts to hold cops criminally liable for breaking the law, I'm guessing he meant civilly or criminally liable for breaking the law, we are pissing up a rope by suing ourselves. Because when lawsuits come out, it comes from the constituents. How is that a fair system? Right?
who I was talking to a lawyer the other day, and he was talking about suing the city, not on a police thing, but it was just suing the city for, I forgot what the kind of case was. And that's one of the biggest problems with juries is you're essentially asking them, one, take time out of your life, your job, your family to come decide this issue. And by the way, any dollar you award is going to be a dollar essentially that you've paid at some point as a taxpayer. And a lot of jurors have a problem doing that. Like, hey, this is us paying it. But, who else is supposed to pay it? I mean, what other options do we have?
Right. Well, I mean, you would think that when a cop gets actually in trouble, especially if he's going to keep his damn job, I would say make them pay. For civil rights violations, I mean,
That doesn't help the victims, right? Imagine you have a wrongful death case. An officer makes, 200 grand a year. Some of them, if they've been on the force for a while, but how's that going to pay for somebody's life? You know what I mean? 3 million, 4 million, 10 million in damages. An officer's never going to be able to pay that. So it has to be his employer, the people who trained him, the people who ratified and gave a thumbs up to his conduct. They should be the ones to pay for it to actually make the people whole.
But until the officer realizes that he could possibly be held personally accountable, won't he ever get that feeling of being personally held accountable?
Yes, there is a sense that officers are like, whatever, I don't give a shit about this case. My IA cleared me. I've got nothing on my record, so my trajectory of going up to sergeant, lieutenant, captain, whatever, that's going to be fine. So it's just this one case. I got to appear at one deposition and maybe appear at a trial one day. But if I lose, whatever, I'm not going to pay anything, so I'm fine. That's absolutely like a reason for them not to give a shit. I get it. But I don't think holding them accountable by making them pay is the solution either. And holding them criminally liable is really tough. But that's something to consider. I think it's having their job on the line, having their career, something adverse career-wise, is the only way to really have them stop and say, hey, wait a minute. Do I want to do this? Is it worth arresting that guy over there because he told me to shut up? Is it worth my job? The answer is usually going to be no, it's not. So why do it? And he's not going to do it. I don't. If that guy was worried about his job, I don't think he would have arrested your son that day.
Right. This guy Douglas, he's the one that asked that question. Now he says he won't be held accountable though. He'll just have to pay high insurance rates and therefore make 5 times more money. Not sure exactly what that means, but I guess what people are saying is when cops get sued and they get found guilty, right? Whatever. Um, shouldn't they have like some kind of insurance, that can actually pay for it instead of the
Some
people?
some cities do. Some cities do have the smaller cities have insurance companies that are actually the ones paying not only for the lawyers but for their defense team, but they're paying for a certain amount of the judgment, like up to $1 million, whatever the policy is.
But
Just
don't
like
don't the taxpayers pay for that insurance policy?
yeah, they do absolutely.
Well, that's still the same thing, right?
I guess yeah, sure, but I mean I can't sit here and try to figure out how to run a city and pay for shit every time that's a really tough
So you
question.
so that would be have to go. I mean, unless it's a federal mandate or something, every state and city would have to go about doing it on their own. I guess is what you're saying.
The only solution you guys are talking about though, other than making the city pay for it as the employer, is making the actual officer pay for it. But officers don't have that much money. So what are they really going to be able to do? It's like a FedEx driver. They get into crashes all the time, right? Imagine making them individually pay for it for every person they kill on the road when they crash into somebody. I mean, they wouldn't be able
But
to. So
that's different when it's private versus public, right? I mean, because still,
my my point is, if the employer isn't the one who's held responsible, the victim ends up being the one that loses. In the public arena, everybody loses. I get it. The victim loses and the people lose because they're the ones who are fitting the bill. But what other solution could there be? The solution shouldn't be, hey, make the officer pay for it, because then the victim loses. The victim will they'll never really get justice in any way.
I see what
So,
you're saying. So what you're saying is the officer doesn't even have enough money to pay the victim.
no.
That's
Imagine
but what if it were to go through like some kind of insurance company, a
that he would
personal
have to pay for?
a personal insurance company, because that's what insurance is for anyway, right? When you don't have the money to come out of pocket for anything, anyways.
Sure. So what you want to do is create a private insurance just for officers, right? And who do you think is going to pay for that insurance?
The cop,
And who pays the cop?
the people.
All right, so we're going to raise the prices that we pay cops so they can now do a state mandated insurance that they're required to get. If the people still paying for it anyway, we're just going to have to pay cops more. So we pay for the insurance, or we pay cops to buy the insurance, or we pay for ourselves without insurance. It's still the people paying for it. There's really no way around it.
Hmm.
It sucks. I get it. I mean, it fucking sucks, but it is what it is. There's really no way around it. So if you want to be able to sue government entities, the government's going to have to pay for it. I mean, that's just how it is. We can't have it both ways. Hey, can we sue the government but not make the government pay? There's really no way around it.
One of the things that another activist, Wolfie Gladly, pointed out to me one time was that cops will say things like, when they arrest you, they'll say, we're not gonna play court on the side of the street. You have your day in court. You take it up with the judge. You'll have your day in court. One of the best lines we've ever heard, right, from cops. You'll have your day in court. But when you're in court and the person, gets arrested, you go to court and you speak out of turn, you get held in contempt of court, because you're what? You're holding up the court. When an officer violates somebody's rights, and let's say the person is, hold on, I have a First Amendment right to do what I did, for instance, my son or whatever, and the cop says to the person, you'll have your day in court. Even if the person is pointing out, and if I'm not mistaken, a lot of people are thinking that if we point out the law to the cop and he still arrests us, then that ends their qualified immunity. I don't know if that's true, how true that is, but when we tell these cops, we have rights, whatever, and they still arrest us, um, isn't that a form of contempt of court?
When you what?
When the cops arrest the folks, and they violate people's rights, they're constantly filling up the courthouses with people's arrest over feelings, not law. We see cops fucking
Sure.
arresting people over feelings all the time.
Yeah.
Isn't that a form of contempt of court?
It's a, I mean, it is because they're causing they're
They're holding up the
backing up.
courts.
They
Right.
there's no, you're right. I mean, I see what you're getting at, but it's really a civil rights violation. But are they causing a huge financial drain on our courts and therefore our taxpayers and everything? Absolutely. They arrest somebody, that means someone's got to book them, someone's got to do this, someone's got to do that. We got to feed them in jail. Then they got to go through the court system. Public defender is going to get hired. A DA is going to have to work on the case. A judge is going to have to work on the case. A court reporter is now getting paid to transcribe everything. I mean, look at all the money that's getting dumped in to this officer who just you're under arrest, for nothing. So I get what you're saying.
Can something be changed? Just because obviously it's an unsustainable system. We can't keep up with the same shit over and over again.
I mean, if you
Or
wanted to
can
sit,
we?
our system has so many little cracks and holes like that. I mean, if if a person did that to you, let's say I just sued you right now for just because I wanted to, it made no sense, I had no right to do it, but I sue you anyway. Technically, you have a right to sue me back, right? The government doesn't sue me. The government can't be like, you filed this bullshit lawsuit. You know what I mean? There's really nothing that's what the government's there for me to fucking dump all my shit on. It sucks, but that's what they do. That's what the court system's for. You get to sue me for malicious prosecution or abuse of process. That's really your only right. The taxpayers can't really do anything against me. You have a right to sue me. When an officer does it, it's the same thing. You have a right to sue the officer for malicious prosecution, your civil rights, whatever it might be, that kind of stuff. But it's not like the court or, can call the officer and be like, you're fucking up our shit. You know how many bullshit cases we have? But the system's still broken. I get it. But that comes down to training these officers. Imagine they were informed about that. And they were told, like, look what happens every time you do this. We lose a ton of money. Oh, and by the way, your job is on the line. They'll stop doing it. I think so.
Man, I gotta say we could probably talk for hours, bro, because I've
I
been
can
doing
talk
this a long time, and you've probably been doing this, civil rights a long time, and I gotta tell you, man. Obviously, folks we have a lot of questions. We have a lot of brainstorming to do to try to figure things out with policy, police.
I'll say this. Anytime you guys want to talk again on here, just privately, just really figuring this shit out, I'm happy to do it. You're not paying me to be here. I love being here. I love talking about this stuff. So if you guys have questions, you guys really want to talk about stuff, especially I wrote it down. What was it? The project.
The Bentham Project. I'll send it to you.
I'd love to talk to you guys about that some more. In any way I can help, honestly. Obviously, I can't take 1,000 cases tomorrow, but in terms of really talking about stuff, I'm happy to talk about it with you guys and help you guys however I can.
Yeah, man, I have a feeling that we will ultimately figure out a way to, I wouldn't say fix policing, because obviously there's always going to be, I believe, things happening out there. And also, do you know the difference between a statist and a voluntarist?
No.
You ever heard those terms? So my understanding is a statist is someone who believes we need cops, we need government. Voluntarist would believe that we don't need a papi to tell us what to do or to go right. I don't want to say if it's full on anarchy or what, but I don't know if a voluntary system would work. I have been shown some things and I have talked to folks regarding this, and I've thought to myself, like, that shit ain't never gonna work. Maybe I'm a statist. We need police, right? I don't believe that we'll ever get to a point where we're never gonna have police. I don't believe that. I don't. That's why I didn't understand the whole defund the police stuff.
Right.
And I think if maybe the whoever came out with defund the police, if they would have came out with a different terminology, they probably would have had something there. But it made no sense to folks who didn't understand it. They're like, we're not gonna stop fucking funding police, and what's gonna happen when there's no more police? And everybody got all afraid of it, right?
Yeah.
um,
It should have been the retrained police. That I mean, I know that's not as catchy, and it kind of like retrain but that's really all this is. We need to retrain the police and everything
after
that means.
after DOJ investigations, and they investigated a department, yada yada yada. Isn't that all they do is just say, all right, man, we found you motherfuckers to be fucking up. What we're gonna do is we're gonna give you more money and more training. And it's the same shit. Nothing changes. And that's what we're seeing a lot of as well. And like I say, man, I don't even believe I'm that smart. A lot of people get mad at me for saying that. But one of the things I do find to point out is a lot of police hypocrisy. And I see a lot of it. I do see good policing, though. I don't believe that I am a 100% voluntarist. I do believe we do need some policing out there. Mark Bacon, a man I helped a long time ago, a black man who was getting fucked with by the city attorney Michael Fuhrer, L.A. County.
Yeah,
Um,
still.
and and yeah, still city attorney, and they were doing some. They were using him in a fucked up way, and it put his life in danger, and shit like that. And but me and Mark Bacon, we got to talking on the phone a lot, and one of the things he told me was, I don't believe that they should get rid of cops. What I believe is they should go back to the old form of policing, where they would go and get murderers, rapists, robbers, fucking bank robbers, and all that shit, and really go get criminals, and stop messing with just the common man. And just because you're black, stop fucking with you because you're black, right? You had to throw that in there for sure. I don't blame him. But and I see a lot of these things, man, and I hear folks talking, and I see a lot of the way people think, and a lot of people are making a lot of good points, man. And I believe that if we all keep putting our heads together, we figure it out. Even when that happens, man, will anything ever change in within the policing? Just like the homeless situation, bro. No matter what kind of solution you're gonna fucking find, at the end of the day, you might have a government agency that's gonna stop it. And it's an unsustainable system at this point, man. Of course, is it operating the way it should? I mean, the court system is operating every single day. You got district attorneys in there every single day. Everybody's getting paid. Even through the whole COVID shit, when everybody's working from home, everybody's getting paid, right? And if everybody ever was afraid of a government shutdown, it fucking happened. And so we're seeing this everywhere we go, bro. We're taking cameras in courthouses now. Another good question. A lot of us go into these California courthouses. We've been doing it for years.
Yeah, why? What for? Curious.
It's a public place.
But like just to like record a court just having its.
Well, let me ask you this: why, for many years before this, was mainstream media news, ABC, Fox, all them, why were they in the courthouses recording and documenting cases or whatever's going on in there? They were always allowed to go into the courthouse. Of course, we understand that you need to get permission to go inside and record the courtroom, right? But now the judges are extending that all the way to the courthouse. And so now we're supposed to, let's say there's a sheriff's office in one of the courthouses, or, there's several different types of agencies or offices inside these revenue recovery, all kinds of shit, right? We're supposed to be able to record and document our interactions, our business with that business, because it's all it is a business. Government's a business. Every government installation, every government agency, it's a business.
So when you go into the courthouse to deal with the sheriff there and you pull out your phone, they tell you, hey, you can't record in the courthouse?
A lot of times. In California, they're doing it now from San Diego all the way up to Redding and everywhere else. They're not letting us go in the courthouses now. The judge's order is pushing you guys all out. They're not letting us go in the courthouses no more. There's a lot of things that we're seeing.
What was your question? Sorry.
Uh,
You had a question about the courthouses.
yeah, is that judge's order maybe something we could probably send you some pictures? Is
I
that
got to research that. I've never even heard of because these videos I watch, it's usually of people on the street and stuff like
right?
that. I've never thought of just recording every single interaction you have with an officer, and they're obviously in the courthouse all the time. So I got to look into if they can, because it's a public place. You can record in a public place, and it is. I know the
Absolutely.
courtroom is a little bit different, but the hallways of the courthouse, I've taken pictures in there. I don't think anyone's ever walked up to me and been like, "Hey, you can't be here with a phone out." But in a courtroom, I've heard judges like, "Hey, that phone, put it down. You can't use a
Right.
phone." Um, so that sounds like bullshit. That sounds like they're just trying to find a way. I gotta do some research on that.
So one of the things that we do as activists, man, is like I like to say this, man. I'm not that smart, but what I do have is a big foot, and I like to stick it indoors and leave it open for people that are smarter than me to come in behind me and ask the real questions, like, hey, man, where's all our money going? Where's all this misappropriation of funds going? Right, and then they go hide. And that's why we go into these places, bro, because we see a lot of government overspending. It doesn't, and I like to say this, man. It doesn't matter who's in power, whether you're a Democrat or Republican or a liberal or a fucking, doesn't matter who's in power, all right? They wield a strong arm, and that's the police. When they put these laws and orders and all these things that they put in, the police will go enforce it. And so, um, I guess to me, my activism is to record the police, teach everybody their rights, and let the folks know that they have rights. And ultimately, hopefully, at the end of the day, we take away that hammer that they're wielding at us, because that's what it feels like. It feels like they don't care about the Constitution. The people don't know it, and they're willing to take us to jail when they have their feelings hurt. And kind of like you said, lawyers, they don't. Nobody really wants to help the people in situations like this. And you and
It's
it
I
and
know it's not a want issue. It's
right, right.
it's a
Can
can.
you? Can you?
And because I wish I could. I just can't. I literally, physically, financially, whatever, can't do it. That's like 10,000 hours. For just no one can really do that. Which is why I wish the ACLU could expand to take on these kind of cases.
And,
But
and and that's why I ask you, bro, because I see this, and your answer, I kind of already knew. I knew this answer, and I gotta tell you, that's why I keep wondering if we will ever get to a point where the people can actually defend themselves. Because we live in the age of information, bro, right? And it's glad that we're touching base and we're putting our heads together because you're an attorney. You understand law and the courtroom talk and stuff like that, right? A lot of us don't. But when let's say you were to start a channel and you were to actually say, okay, this is what I found today in court, guys. Check this out. I want to share this with you guys, the people, because this will help you guys out when you guys file a lawsuit. Just like you said right now, and you're already doing that, bro. I gotta say thank you because you said you were gonna give us like kind of like I don't know what you said, like a game plan for the
yeah, yeah.
Bentham project to kind of like when we go file our lawsuits, right? This is what I'm talking about. This is us and you giving us a game plan, you handing over something that can actually help the people. I thank you for that. And I know I'm a hard interview, bro, right? I ask tough questions. And I interviewed a cop recently who's still a cop, but she's not on a force right now. And I told her, people are going to give you shit. They're going to question you. As long as you're not afraid, as long as you're willing to go ask these questions, let's do it. And so she got a lot of love, man. She got a lot of love. And I believe you will as well. And I believe that a lot of people are going to appreciate you for answering all these questions. I got to say, man, you fucking touch bases on a lot of shit. I do believe that maybe myself, I do maybe agree to disagree with you on some things. Maybe I think maybe you and I could talk about it, maybe have an understanding some more of these things on maybe I'm wrong on some things, maybe I'm right, maybe I could enlighten you, or maybe you can enlighten me on how I'm wrong on some things. I know I've been reading some of the chat, not a lot, sorry guys, But as I've been reading, some of the folks in there are like, oh shit, he's just another bar member, right? But at the same time, I believe, bro, if you have like really good intentions, which I believe you do, I believe you can give us tools, help us with things, so that the people can help each other learn, and help each other fight, man. For instance, like when you in your position, because I know you're probably overwhelmed already as it is, right? So am I. But I mean, if we can give somebody tools to help themselves fight for themselves, which my son Junior is asking right now too, like, ask him, Dad, what can I do?
I'm gonna have a conversation with your son. Tell him exactly what's gonna happen next and what he should do. But I'm curious to hear from you and your listeners. Maybe they can write it in the comments. What do you guys expect lawyers to do? Because you guys are so passionate and you guys are putting in, like, you guys are doing this for free essentially, right? It's your time, it's your whatever. You guys are going out there. But what sort of dedication or passion or whatever do you guys expect of lawyers? Like somebody just said, oh, he's just another bar member. But I look at myself like I don't feel like I can do much else other than like knocking on the door of, our local whatever congressman or whatever and demanding something. What do you guys expect lawyers to do if you call them and say, hey, here's what happened to me? What's your guys' expectations?
I would like you guys to answer that in the questions, and I gotta say, Greg, I'm gonna let him know where the channel and the video is. I'll send him this video afterwards. I'm sure you're gonna be reading the comments, not just in the live chat right now, but in the comments. Folks are gonna be watching this. They're gonna be leaving a bunch of comments. You guys leave Greg some questions. Maybe he could respond to you guys in the comment section as well. What I think I personally would like to see, what I would like to expect from lawyers is kind of what you just handed over to us right now, or you said you were willing to hand over to us, is like kind of like a game plan for us to go to use when we file these lawsuits, because we don't want to go in there blindly and look like fucking idiots, like I did in Arizona when I got bitch slapped fucking by the damn whole court system. I didn't know it was going pow pow every which way, and I'm like, I'm in there. They don't want, in Arizona, they didn't want to give me an attorney because they weren't seeking jail time. They wanted me to defend myself. On my second court appearance, I'm in there to ask for more time. They're like, nah, we're ready to proceed. And so they handed me my ass in there, and I went in there and I was like, all right, I'm ready to ask my first question. Officer, do you know the First Amendment of the Constitution? Objection, Your Honor, sustained. Like, yeah, so it was a damn joke. Kangaroo courts. But I gotta tell you, bro, I think if I was more prepared, I think if we start to prepare the people more, not just on the streets with the cops, but start to prepare people in the courtrooms, I think we're onto something, bro. Does that make sense?
I think doing a trial is one thing. That might be, really hard to do by yourself. I mean, it's hard for lawyers to do. It's like fucking overwhelming, the amount of evidence and presenting and all that stuff, picking a jury, all that stuff gets complicated. But everything before that, you guys can really train yourselves on how to prepare stuff. And even before that, when you guys are out on the street and recording the officers, what to do, how to do it, when to do it, you guys will be empowered. That's really the only way I can really describe it. And then ultimately, if you get your shit to a certain point where you have trial and it's ready to go, and I have a feeling finding a lawyer at that point to say, hey, all the work's done. These guys have done everything already. I just need to go in there and have a smooth trial presenting this case and see what can happen. I think you guys will have a lot easier time getting a lawyer at that point.
I have a question as far as lawyers and attorneys, and I'm finding this happening right now in Mesa, Arizona with DirectD. They don't really want to go against the cops, man. And I told this to the judge over there. I said, Your Honor, I made a couple calls out there, and none of them want to take my case. He thought it was a damn joke. He said, "Oh, cops in Mesa are always trying to sue the cops out here." You mean to tell me that who are these people that you called? Show me the list. And he was just being rude and making it seem like I was lying. And I wasn't lying. I made some calls. And just to show you that I'm not lying, DirectD's fucking lawyers that he had already paid, they gave up on the case. Because he's telling them, bro, you're not even fucking helping me. You're not asking the right question. I'm telling you how to do your damn job, and you guys not even fucking doing it. And they're like, nah, well, we don't know. They just gave him the whole runaround. They don't want to help him anymore. And Direct D's had to go in there and fucking tell the judges. They're trying to tell him, you can't record. He says, I could document record my case. No, you can't. So he goes back in there and audio recording. Same thing with me, man. In my case, the judge tried to tell me that I couldn't audio record. And because I learned from Direct D, I challenged her and I said I could audio record. And I'm not turning it off. And I audio recorded. That shit was actually cool, man. I got it on my Instagram. I'll show that to you too. That shit was badass. Arguing with the judge and winning, right? I'm not even a lawyer. And so, yeah, man, I think if there's any way that you know anybody in Arizona, especially in Mesa, that can help my friend, I know he's stressed out, and I know he doesn't trust folks as that much, and
He's still going through the criminal defense process.
He's still going through the criminal defense process, yeah.
I don't know any criminal defense lawyers in Arizona, but it can't be too hard to find. The problem is they're going to charge you 5, 10, whatever, 15 grand.
Right.
To kind of defend you, and who knows what's going to happen when you go to trial. Sometimes they ask for more when you go to trial. It's tough. And they don't have public defenders in Arizona?
Supposedly they don't give you a public defender if they're not seeking jail time. But he's got because he is facing one felony, but he's facing like 6 other misdemeanors. And they're all for recording police. And the felony, he didn't even do anything. They're the ones that grabbed him, and they're saying that he hit them.
Yeah, that happens almost every case we have when there's excessive force.
Right.
They always bring a resisting charge,
right,
and say, while we're beating the shit out of this guy, even though they don't write it that way, but it's essentially while we were beating the shit out of this guy, he moved his elbow, and then, his elbow hit my head, and so we needed to use even more force. It's like, well, who doesn't do this when they're getting, kicked and punched in the face? We have so many cases like that where they're punching you and they're like, put your hands behind your back. And it's like, I'm not putting my hands anywhere. I got to fucking bob and weave and protect the back of my head from kicks. It's fucking crazy. But I want to.
There are some attorneys, I don't know if you ever heard of them, Pop Brothers at Law. They're like in the LA area as well.
What are they called?
Pop Brothers at Law. They do they defend like pot cases and stuff like that. But
okay. I think I have heard of them actually.
They're kind of like I don't want to. I mean, maybe like celebrity attorneys. They're always like linking up with folks like Snoop Dogg and other folks and just doing the whole "shut the fuck up Friday." But I let them know. I guess they watched the video that I did where I said that I was going to be speaking to an attorney. You guys leave some questions, and he says, "Well, give me his information. We'll put him on our recommended list." So I guess they'll recommend you with folks and stuff.
I've seen their videos before. These guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're funny.
Yeah, one of them was asking if he can get your information to put you on the recommendations list. So.
Yeah, give him my info. I'm happy to help.
Now let me ask you this, bro. As far as like taking cases from activists, auditors, cop watchers, and stuff like that, what would be the ideal case for you to take?
The ideal case would be. I mean, here's the thing. Being an attorney, you guys are right. It is a business, right? We are not public servants. We're not getting paid to do anything. We get paid by either the client or what we recover on a case. So a lot of lawyers who work on contingency, which is what I do, I work based on how much I think I can recover for you, right? So if I think I can recover $10,000 for the client, $20,000 for a client, that means, okay, I'm going to take, a certain percentage of that home, but how much work is going to go into this case? Doing a trial, going all the way to trial, that's, 400 hours. And if I recover $10,000, let's say, on a case, putting in 400 hours, that's like, ends up being whatever, barely minimum wage. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's really not a lot. It's so much work just to maybe be able to recover. So your son has a phenomenally good case because it's a pretty clear-cut civil rights violation. But the problem is getting a lawyer to put in all the time and effort to maybe get a jury to award him 20 grand, maybe 50 grand. I don't know what a jury would award him. So a good case, unfortunately, it sucks to say, but I'm being honest with you guys. Attorneys look at what your injuries are. If they cracked your son over the head and he bled out onto the street and died, hey, now from a lawyer's perspective, that's a good case, right? Because now I'm going to be able to recover for his father, Lord knows how many millions of dollars. So I've got the liability. They clearly violated his rights, and then they used excessive force. So liability is there, but we got to look at damages. That's a reality. There's really no way to look at it, which is why I was saying it would be fantastic if we had some sort of public funding or a group that can get lawyers to not look at your son's damages. They look at the fact that his rights were violated, right? And they file just for that one reason. Hey, we don't care how much money we get, because this isn't about money anymore. We've got
Right.
public funding that's paying us to do this lawsuit. We're just here to protect civil rights. Lawyers can't just do that because we're running a business. We'd lose money taking that case. But if we had public funding, we would do it. So your son's case is great from a civil rights perspective, but from a damages perspective, it's a little bit different, right?
So you're mostly looking for like if there's not just civil rights but damages as well. As
Yeah,
far as like so it's not so it doesn't overwhelm you and you don't find yourself, taking hundreds of cases of small cases that might not even at the end of the day, pay the
correct.
bills.
So the reality is we are injury lawyers. I handle
Makes
injury
sense.
cases. Okay, I do. The car accident injury cases are really easy. Those are, no problem. But a lot of injury lawyers won't take this sort of injury case because the legal parts of it are really complex and they're difficult. And you're going up against a government entity who will take it all the way to trial. So a lot of injury lawyers back up. They were like, we can't take those cases, too much work for not enough money. But I like these cases. I genuinely enjoy these cases, so I take them. Um, but yeah,
This guy, just the guy having fun. He's also from Arizona, and he also, tries to help a lot with information. Teach us how to file notice of claim or intent to sue, or direct us to the information. I mean, that's
does
kind
do
of what was
do
that?
they have it in Arizona as well? You have to file a notice before you file,
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yep.
because we have that in California, and it's always been a real bullshit law, if you ask me. Because any injury case, a normal injury case, you have 2 years to file a lawsuit, right? In California.
Mhm.
You can wait 2 years. You can go to the doctor, get better, do whatever you need to do, and then you can file your lawsuit. In California, you have 6 months to file this notice. And if you don't file the notice, you lose your right to sue completely
Right.
on a lot of claims. So filing the notice is really easy. If you Google, let's say, LA County notice of intent, lawsuit, something will come up. If you look up claim for damages, it'll definitely come up. And it's usually a one-page form, and you just have to follow the directions. You just have to make sure you submit it to the right place. A lot of times people will take it, they'll fill it out, and they'll take it to the police department. That doesn't work. If it's the LAPD, you got to take it to the city clerk's office, to a really specific
Right.
room in City Hall. If it's the sheriff's department, you got to take it to the board of supervisors in the Hall of Justice or the Hall of Administration. I forgot what it's called.
County building.
Yeah, the county building, which is right next door, but it's
Right.
in that civic center right by the courthouses. And you're in Orange County, it's going to be a different thing. City of Placentia, it's a different department. Everywhere is different. California Highway Patrol, totally different. Now you have to pay something, you got to do this. There's certain steps. Each one is different. But again, I don't know why people don't call lawyers for everything. We all, like what I'm doing right now, I do on the phone with people 24/7. So we have lawyers here who all I do is have like help me work on the cases. But when a client calls and they have questions, I take those calls. Every day I'm telling at least one person how to file a notice of intent, a claim for damages form. You have to do it right, and more importantly, you have to do it at the right place.
Nice. Maybe on our next, I gotta really use the restroom, so I'm gonna cut this here short, guys. And plus, I have a lot to do today, guys. But maybe on the next show, if you and I do this again, which I would love to, bro, because I think that you're pretty insightful. But I think that maybe if we can talk about this more often, maybe you can try to help lead us down the right path of how to file these lawsuits and tend to sue and do these things, because we're a little confused out here. We're dealing with a lot.
I will bring next time you want, whenever it is, next week, 2 weeks, whenever you
Cool.
want. I'll bring and I'll email it to you before so you can pull it up and show everybody
Cool.
what the average lawsuit has, what you need to put in there, what you got to do before, what's going to happen right after, at least that kind of initial get the ball rolling stuff.
Okay.
And then, most importantly, which this would help you guys a lot, is how to get info from the officers right after you file a lawsuit. Because a lot of lawyers are like, hey, do you have the police report? Do you have this? Do you have that? And a lot of times people are like, no, they didn't file charges. You know, they didn't bring, they ended up dropping the criminal case. So I never got the police report and they won't give it to me now. So now I'll teach you guys how to file a lawsuit and get everything you need from that department or from that officer.
Nice.
Now you have everything ready for a lawyer. And you
Sweet.
can be like, here's everything we've got. And now a lawyer can be like, I'm ready to go. I get this
All right.
case. This,
That makes sense.
yeah.
Cool,
Hit me up
man.
if you want. We'll talk.
I will, bro. So we're gonna go ahead and shut this down, guys. We're gonna end this now. I just want to say, Greg, thank you so much, bro. And I don't know why, man, but through the text messages, you made it seem easy as far as like how to communicate with you. You didn't take forever to get back to me or anything like that. I know I did. But I just want to say I really do appreciate you, bro. I really appreciate you reaching out. I really appreciate you coming on, answering questions. And I got to tell you, I didn't make it easy on you, bro. I kind of asked you some tough questions, and I let the people ask you some tough questions. And I think they're giving you a hard time. I mean, not giving you a hard time, but putting you in the hot seat. And I think it's because the people are in a position right now where we've been led down the wrong path a lot of times, many different ways. Like I said, there was one attorney that ripped a lot of us off. But I just want to say that I do believe you have good intentions, man. I really do appreciate you for talking to us. 2 hours is a lot of time. You know what I mean? So I want to say thank you for that, bro. And I
I'll
would
send
love
you my bill. Yeah. No,
to. Right? I'm starting to charge a lot for what I do as well too now. But
you
I'll
have
let
my
you.
cell phone. You can call me anytime, even if it's you're in the
Cool.
middle of something, you're not quite sure what the right answer is, and you just need a quick 5 second. You want to talk? Text me. I'll call you back right away, and we can do this anytime you want.
Man, I appreciate that, bro. Hell yeah. All
You
right,
got it.
so Greg Kirakosian, thank you so much. Everybody, thank you for being here. And maybe we can do this again next Saturday or the next Saturday after that. But maybe we'll do something like every now and then and just try to cut it down for like 30 minutes to an hour and just run through it. Maybe you and I can review a video together or something in the future, or
I
talk
would love
about
to do that.
cases, and
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
just so many opportunities, so many things to do, man. Maybe one day we'll meet up for lunch.
Let's do it.
All right, brother. Thank you so
All right.
much, man. All right. And you guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And I really appreciate you guys 100%. You guys are really, truly supportive. And like I said, guys, I'm trying to reach out to folks. I'm trying to talk to people. I'm trying to see what we can do to have better policing out there, change policies, and try to get everybody to connect with each other and help everybody out. Like I said, man, let's keep doing this shit. Let's learn. Let's figure out how to help each other grow. And I kind of knew that we were headed down this path where it's hard to help the small guy, right? With the simple civil rights violations. You guys heard it yourself. It's time consuming and it's costly. At the end of the day, he'll probably go broke if he starts to help us all little by little. But I kind of know this already because we're seeing it without, the actual words coming from him. But I do believe that we're at a point in time where we live in the age of information, And I do believe that we're in a point in time where we can actually start helping each other defend or file these lawsuits and defend our rights in court using the right verbiage, the right interpretation of the law. And with that being said, much love, my good friends, my good people. I thank you guys. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace. Hit that thumbs up.